Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving straight into probably the biggest communication challenge in the modern workplace, the virtual team call.
Hmm.
I mean, it's supposed to connect us, but so often it just creates these invisible walls, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That anxiety people feel is completely legitimate.
Yeah, you have this crucial insight, you're ready to share it, but the moment just flies by, or maybe the connection is choppy, or you have to interrupt, like the CEO.
And that's the thing. Getting simple fluency in English is one challenge,
Right.
but getting that polished confidence is a whole other level.
Exactly.
Simple phrases might get the job done. You could say, stop talking, I need to add something, but well, that's going to chip away at your professional standing.
Absolutely. The language you use should signal respect and, critical thinking.
Hmm.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to move you past just being understood
Uh-huh.
and give you the exact professional phrases that can really transform how you participate. We want to just remove those barriers.
And we've looked at the source material and distilled it into really practical tools. The focus here is on the social dynamics these phrases solve, not just, the grammar.
That sounds like a plan. So let's unpack this, and I think we should start where the tension is highest.
The interruption.
The polite interruption. Because sometimes you just have to break in.
You do. It could be a time issue, or maybe the team is going down the wrong path based on a bad assumption, and you have to stop them right then and there.
But you can't be abrupt. In a real meeting room, you can, lean forward or raise a hand.
You lose all of that on video.
Totally. So if we can't just blurt out, wait, or stop, what's the workaround? What's the professional way in?
The key is what we call a linguistic cushion.
A linguistic cushion, okay.
Yeah, it's just a short, softening phrase that, in a way, asks for permission to speak for a second, and it softens the whole impact. The absolute best one is, if I could just jump in here for a moment.
That feels perfect. But let's break that down. Why is it so effective? The source material really points to the word just. What's so special about that little word?
It's all about psychological expectation. When you use just, it immediately de-escalates the situation.
Right.
It's telling the other person, look, I know this is disruptive, but I promise my intrusion is going to be small. It manages that fear that you're about to launch into a 5-minute monologue.
You're minimizing your conversational footprint before you've even made your point. That makes a ton of sense.
And that's why people will usually grant you the floor.
Okay, what if the setting is a bit more formal? Say, a board meeting, something with high-stakes clients. Do we need something a little more elevated than just jump in?
Yes, and that's when you lean on the courtesy that's already built into English grammar, specifically the modal verb may. And say, may I add something quickly? Using may instead of can is a really clear signal of formal courtesy.
What's the difference there, really?
Well, can implies ability like, am I physically able to speak?
Sure.
But may implies permission. Do you grant me the opportunity to speak? It's a subtle shift, but it really elevates the tone.
That's a great distinction. It shows you're conscious of the flow. But, okay, here's a practical problem. What if I use one of these polite phrases and the person just keeps talking over me?
That is a critical point.
Yeah.
You have to be ready for that. Once you get that tiny opening, your point has to be concise and powerful. Lightning fast.
Right.
You state your key insight in 1, maybe 2 sentences, and then you immediately signal you're done. Something like, but that's all I wanted to add, or apologies for the interruption, please continue.
So you have to honor the brevity you promised.
You have to. You bought a moment, not the whole meeting.
Excellent. Okay, so mastering the entrance is key. Let's transition to the next big hurdle. Once we're in the conversation, how do we move past just a simple, I agree or I disagree? Because this is where people, especially non-native speakers, get worried about offending someone.
And that fear often just leads to silence, which is such a missed opportunity. When you agree, you should use that moment to become a valuable contributor, not just, an echo.
So how do we upgrade from a basic agreement?
Well, to show strong support, you can use active language like, I totally second that point. That's good.
Okay.
But the best technique is to agree while expanding the conversation. It makes you look like a synthesizer of ideas. You could try. That's a great point, and it leads me to think about.
So you're using the agreement as a bridge. You're validating their point while also introducing your own. That's smart. It makes you look really engaged.
Precisely. It shows you're listening, processing, and not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Okay, now for the hard part. Disagreement. We know saying you are wrong is Well, a professional disaster. So what's
Mm.
the respectful framework for that, especially on video where you can't read faces easily?
The framework needs layers. You have to soften it, and crucially, you have to acknowledge their perspective first.
Okay, start with their point.
Always. You could start with, I see your point, but I have a slightly different take on this.
So you're saying their view is valid, even if you're about to challenge it. And where should the focus be so it doesn't get personal?
The focus must always be on the objective problem, the project, the strategy, never the person.
Right.
So if you're talking about budgets or timelines,
Mm.
you can frame your disagreement around feasibility, something very formal like. That's an interesting perspective, yet I'm concerned about the feasibility of implementing this by Q3.
Wow, yeah. That is powerful. You haven't said your idea is bad. You've just introduced a constraint feasibility that now the whole team has to solve together.
Exactly. The critique is aimed at the plan, not the person who suggests it. And that is the absolute core of professional disagreement.
Excellent. Okay, let's pivot to something that stresses everyone out. The bane of our virtual lives. Technical trouble.
Ah, yes.
The connection drops, someone sounds muffled. If you just say, "What did you say?" it can sound so sharp.
This is where I think a tiny bit of etiquette makes a huge difference. And here's a subtle but really powerful tip from our sources.
Mm.
Always apologize first for the technical issue.
Even if it's not my fault.
Even if it's clearly their fault, it just sounds kind and cooperative. It frames the issue as this external glitch that you're both dealing with.
That's a great bit of social engineering, actually. It stops them from getting defensive.
It does. So to ask for a repeat, you combine that apology with really gentle phrasing like, I apologize, but my connection is cutting out. Could you possibly repeat the last sentence?
Could you possibly? That is so soft.
It's a triple layer of softening, right? You apologize, you blame the connection, and then you use that super gentle phrase. It makes a request incredibly easy to say yes to.
I had a situation once. A key stakeholder was in a busy cafe. Audio was terrible. How do you handle that faint volume without being accusatory?
You just frame it as a technical problem, keep it simple and polite. Your audio seems a little faint. Could you speak up just a little? And if the problem is speed, someone is rushing through complex data, you use that same idea. Focus on your need to understand, not their fast pace.
Right, something like, would you mind speaking a little slower? I want to make sure I catch all the details.
Exactly. You're taking ownership. I want to catch the details. You've used professional language to ask for a change without making anyone feel awkward.
Okay, so we've covered getting in, managing ideas, dealing with tech. Let's talk about the closing act, confidently confirming the action items.
This is so crucial.
Because confident people don't just wait around for orders, do they? We want to avoid that. So, what should I do now? Vibe.
This is the moment you can really cement your professional reputation. If you can summarize the next steps, you're showing leadership. The key strategy is assertive summarization.
So you don't ask, you state.
You state what you think the action items are, and then you invite correction. You lead the process.
What's a good phrase for that?
One that's great is, just to confirm the next steps, I understand that your name will be responsible for task 1, and other person's name will handle task 2. Is that correct?
Oh, I love that. You're basically creating the meeting minutes in real time and making yourself look incredibly diligent by asking the group to check your work.
Uh-huh.
But what if the meeting was a total mess? You know, disorganized, chaotic. How do you get a clear summary without stepping on the leader's toes?
You can use a proactive summary question. It kind of forces clarity without being aggressive. You ask, what is our single biggest takeaway or action item from today's discussion?
Ah, so you're prompting the leader to provide that final, clear mandate for everyone.
Exactly. It helps everyone leave the call on the same page, and it shows that you're focused on outcomes.
Which really brings up a bigger point, doesn't it? We've found that confidence on these calls isn't about talking the most.
No, not at all. It's about control and productivity. It's making sure that when the call ends, everyone knows what happened, what's next, and feels like their time was respected.
This has been so tactical. Let's do a quick recap of the 4 big phrases our listeners should try to integrate right away.
Okay, for that polite interruption, remember the linguistic cushion. If I could just jump in here for a moment.
Right. And to agree with substance and not just be an echo, I totally second that point, and it naturally leads me to think about.
There, for respectful disagreement, critique the plan, not the person. I see your point, but I have a slightly different take. Or that great one about feasibility.
Yes, I'm concerned about the feasibility of. And finally, wrapping up to confirm action items. Just to confirm the next steps, I understand that, and then you list them.
These tools, they don't just make you sound more fluent, they make you sound genuinely professional. And you will, I promise, see your confidence just grow exponentially.
So what's the big takeaway for you listening right now? I think it's that these subtle shifts in language, like choosing may over can, or apologizing for a tech issue that wasn't your fault, they really do change the whole social dynamic of the call.
hmm And we really want you to consider this, how prioritizing etiquette and, the psychological safety of your team over just strict grammar. That might be the fastest path to earning real professional respect.
So try these out, practice them, and just reflect on how your colleagues react when you manage interruptions and conflict and meeting wrap up so smoothly.
Notice the difference. Notice how people respond when you use one of these polished phrases.
Take these tools, use them, and just feel the difference they make. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.
We'll see you next time.